Good morning. Good morning. How is everybody doing this morning? Happy October. It is Tuesday, October 1st. JTW coming at you with another FOMO live stream. Hope everybody had an excellent weekend and finished up the month of September on a strong note. We're going to get to some market analysis through the lens of ES as always. We'll go through some of our trade plans. We did member selected trade plans over the weekend and obviously have a couple of trade plans we need to circle back to from last Thursday's live stream that we haven't done any reviews on as of yet. So with that, let's dig in and start talking about sort of what we're seeing here on the markets, or in the markets, I should say. Let me get my chat window open. What's up, Navy Plum? Good morning to you, folks. If you are here, hey, what's up, Unknown Reviews? Hope you're doing well. Good to see you in the YouTube side of things. I was starting to wonder about you. Hopefully you were on vacation or doing something fun, but didn't hear from you for a few days. I was like, oh, I hope they're all right. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about where the market is hanging out at the moment. We've seen definitely some weird, I would say it's been kind of sideways, and then we saw a very interesting kind of dip and rip there yesterday, kind of heading into the latter half of the day. But overall, I mean, if we look at sort of this range that ES is in, we saw, what to me looks like a little bit of a liquidity grab down here that touched just below this demand zone, as well as touched just below this kind of key support that we've been holding for quite a while. They're at 57.74.25. So to me, the range really looks visiting fan. Yeah. You know what? Breaks are good sometimes, man. I've got to do one of those every once in a while, even if I'm not actually going anywhere. Sometimes I just disconnect from the markets for a few days just to sort of, kind of refresh, and I think come back with, maybe better perspective. Sometimes you get a little too close to your trades, and you can kind of lose sight of some things if you're kind of especially if you find yourself in a rut at any point. It's certainly a good time to kind of take a little bit of a break, take a step back, and sort of analyze things from a higher level. But going back to this ES, kind of what we're looking at here and what it's doing, again, kind of overall sideways, just choppy movement, right? We did see this liquidity grab, which to me kind of, would typically indicate I'm looking for a move higher, and potentially pushing through this supply zone that's been established, but I'm not seeing any real clear signs of that yet either. So, continuing to keep things on watch. Again, 57.74.25, and I think really kind of with this demand zone just below 57.59 is probably the smarter level to watch, as far as, okay, if we break below that, maybe things look good for some short-term downside potential. I would say below 57.59, that's where I would start to consider that a little bit. And then clearly we need to break out over this current all-time high right around 58.30. We've got this supply zone overhead, and we have flipped things over from a Neptune perspective to the bearish side, which is adding some confluence up there near that 58.30 level. So overall, things look like they could just kind of stay in this lane and go sideways. And I mean, honestly, with election day being just over a month away, it could potentially stay in this range until then and just sort of make moves in this range until the potential outcome of the election becomes more clear, and maybe even again until after it is actually confirmed who the next president of the United States will be. So keep your heads on a swivel, trade light, I would say, and tread lightly as we work our way up through this kind of major event that's going to determine a lot about the next 4 years for this country. So, it is certainly not, does not mean that we need to totally back away from trading, but I would say, there's absolutely a case to be made to, just scale back on those position sizes a little bit. The market's always going to be here. This is a marathon, not a sprint. If you want to do this for your whole life, you don't need to make $1 million in one day. So And generally, the pursuit of that, unless you're working with a very, very large amount of capital, winds up being unsuccessful anyway, because you're kind of chasing and forcing things to happen. So with that being said, let's get into some trade plan reviews. And if you guys and gals are ready, start dropping your ticker requests in the chats. I see Unknown Reviews has already asked for STZ. I think that's Constellation Brands, right? So we'll take a look at that for Unknown Reviews, and then we'll go through our trade plans here from the member selected tickers over the weekend, and we'll start to work on some new trade plans before everything is said and done here this morning. All right, so we did have a plan here on NVIDIA. NVIDIA looked like it was going to open below the put entry, and it did open the day, but within the first 5-minute candle, right back above the put entry. So certainly not a confirmed break. Do not chase these. I don't know how many times I've said that. What's up, Chris? We can definitely take a look at Amazon, brother. Good morning to you as well. So NVIDIA, again, I say this all the time, especially when we're opening above or below so if we're opening above a call entry or opening below a put entry, wait for some sign of a back test and rejection of that put entry before you get in. Obviously, a 5-minute candle shooting right back above and closing back above that put entry. No real rejection evidence there. Did see a pretty clean rejection there at the call entry, so it didn't give us much of a break for most of the day. It tried to confirm a break yesterday going into close, but again, I personally wouldn't be loading up on that end of day pump just to potentially see it come back down and maybe start a more measured move off one of these supports below. So, very similar scenario to what we just talked about on the put side of things, but now on the call side of life, I would be waiting for some kind of a back test and evidence of a bounce happening at 121.20 at this point to pursue this NVIDIA plan. Again, we've got to be patient. We've got to let these trades come to us. And a lot of what I've seen as of late seems to be, intraday, the price action is very muted and sideways, and then we're seeing the moves overnight. Saw a little bit of that, saw a little bit of deviation from that yesterday. But hopefully that's a sign of some volatility coming back into the market, because especially for options traders, volatility is kind of the gasoline that makes the engine work, right? So NVIDIA, again, looking for a back test of our call entry for a potential shot at this one, but so far nothing's really developed as far as a good executable entry on NVIDIA, at least not from my perspective. Coin, we talked about this one a little bit yesterday in the chat, gave us a nice breakdown there on the 5-minute back test of the put entry and slowly ground its way down, ultimately catching PT1 there just before close. I mentioned make sure that you're scaling out for profit, moving up your stops. Looks good for continuation, especially with this 200 SMA catching up, trending to the downside. 333's over that, so now they're oriented, for bearish momentum at the moment as far as those SMAs are concerned. And it looks like the price action seems to be rejecting the 200 with VWAP overhead as well. It might be hard to see here, but you got anchored VWAP right there, that white line tracing the price action. So, this looks good for potential continuation to the downside. But again, we've already taken profits on it. We've moved our stops up. So I will, kind of stick by that position and stick to my stops, being just barely on the profit side from my entry yesterday. Last but not least, from the member selected trade plans, we had Apple. Apple opened, gave us a quick back test. This one wasn't, at least for me, I didn't find it all that actionable. I think it moved just a little bit too quick, even for my taste. But if you're, one of those folks who likes to catch a trade right at the open, this is kind of what we wanted to see on, which one was it? Coin? No, NVIDIA? No, sorry, both of those were breaks to the downside. My apologies. But kind of the opposite of what we wanted to see on those with the downside plays, where we are opening or getting ready to open above the call entry. Then we get our quick little back test right there on that opening candle, and it just launched straight off of that within that first 5 minutes of the trading day. Again, way too fast for my personal taste on this, but if you're somebody who likes to pick up contracts near the open, that's a great setup in my personal opinion. Overall, obviously got to PT1 plus, pulled back, went sideways kind of with the market in general, and then did the kind of dip and rip move that everything did. Really strong rejection off of PT2, and this is something that we talk about often during these live streams. Is one of the big dangers of options is your plan can be right, your targets can hit, but that could actually not be a great thing if that's happening during the extended hour session. And here we see a fantastic gosh, can I get my words out this morning? A fantastic example of that. Hang on, let me get a little bit more coffee. That's what it is. Of that here on Apple, where PT2 was one of our targets, and again, we're scaling out, we're moving our stops up. Sometimes PT1 is all you get, sometimes PT2 is all you get, sometimes it blows all your targets out of the water, right? But you just have to stick to your system, continue to execute things that work well and make profit on a regular basis. And so going back to the risk of options and swinging them overnight, again, we ultimately did hit PT2 here pre-market, and I haven't taken a look or really paid much attention to Apple yet this morning, other than pulling up the chart real quick. But very, very hard rejection, right? So there goes all your profits, and potentially even putting a trade back in the red, depending on your timing of your entry and what contracts you're playing and all that. Overall, this does look like a good back test of the call entry. It may give us a chance to rerun this upside of this plan. I would certainly scale out heavy and be only holding one or two runners if and when we get another test of PT2. Also, seeing some strong confluence here at PT1. They're at 231.72. So, I would make sure to scale out heavy there, maybe hold one or two contracts for a potential PT2 test, take one off, and then hold one for a potential PT3 test, moving your stops up the whole way through, because that's a pretty stiff looking confluence right there at that PT1 with the 200 SMA, Neptune right there. And then obviously we saw what happened pre-market already there at PT2 at 233.39. All right, Micron was from our live stream last Tuesday or Thursday. Yeah, last Thursday. And so Micron, let me get my bearings on this. Actually, sorry, where this shaded area was and how Neptune was setting up kind of threw me off where we were actually looking for our entry. I haven't personally traded this plan. 108.70 was our put entry that we were looking for. Gave us a breakdown, caught that 107.02 level that we had on that secondary chart. I think this is the one that I did kind of a limited chart that only showed the key levels, then one that showed all the levels. This is why I shared the one that had all the levels on it. So that was our key bottom right there. That was the low of the day, 107.03, off by a penny. Ultimately came back up, tested a level just above our put entry, and then rejected, then gave us our breakdown below, back tested the put entry. That's your go signal right there, swinging overnight, breaking down below, back testing PT1. So obviously scaling out, and that's a great sign for the rest of the contracts that you're holding. Is testing the 333 and catching that as some support. After this big sell-off, that 333 was one of the SMAs I watch on a regular basis. You all know that already. So I definitely would have been out there with that kind of moving above or out some more, kind of in advance of PT2 to the downside with that 333 coming up, because it's kind of close enough for PT2 there. And the 333 coming up showing some signs of support. So just some things to be aware of as you execute these trades in real time. Obviously, the market is not static. These moving averages are not static. So as these things move around, we need to make small adjustments to our plans. So that 333 coming up and seems to be catching support. If we break back below that, I think we'll probably see continuation of this trade plan, and probably all of our price targets will hit. So keep that on watch if you're in the MU trade. We also did CrowdStrike, kind of a similar setup, right? Break way down here right after we did this trade plan last Thursday. Not really any great back test opportunities on this one that I saw as I was watching it, at least not on this move there. Kind of looks a little bit like a back test there, but this is just all really kind of messy, sloppy price action in my opinion. ultimately it is rejecting down and trying to push for PT1 to the downside, but I personally haven't touched anything on crowd. And again, the price action on it just looks a little off to me, for lack of a better way of describing it. And then last but not least, Walmart. This is one where we were testing all-time highs when we did this trade plan. Came down, grabbed our support there at the put entry. Let's go back to the 5-minute chart real quick so we can take kind of a look inside these candles. Held that put entry as support, little tiny bounce, back testing this trend line, and then ultimately rejecting down, catching PT1 after a confirmed break below the put entry. Didn't give us a back test, but wasn't a massive hard move to the downside, and still plenty of room before we got to PT1. Ultimately trying to hold PT1 for puts so far and try to push back up off that and reclaiming 80.66 as support. If 80.66 holds, this could actually be an interesting ticker to go ahead and take some longs on. 200s moved back above the 333. They're trending back to the upside. NTS has good confluence there at 80.66 here on the 5-minute of support. I would put my stop at 79.96 on that trade plan. And probably like a 1-to-1, maybe a little bit better than 1-to-1. I'd have my first target up there at 81.01. So see if you can't buy the dip off of 80.66. That doesn't sound right. 81.01. That's an awfully tight little. Well, I forget that Walmart's trading sub $100 now, so those are actually more significant moves than it seems like. So yeah, I'd set my targets there, and at 81.60, of course, all-time highs, and then from there, you're looking at some fib extensions to the upside. All right, let's get to these ticker requests this morning. Let's do some live stream plans. We've got Constellation Brands from Unknown Reviews. Let's jump on that, and then we'll move to Amazon for Chris. Like Chris said in the chats there, if you guys have other tickers you want me to take a look at this morning, please drop those in the chats. I am happy to take a look at as many as we possibly can here in the next 30-ish minutes or so. All right. Constellation Brands. Yeah, and I don't know if you all saw my mention, but I figured out why some of my charts just look totally off. TradingView is having some weird issue with their drawings database, which is all of your support and resistance levels and trend lines and everything you draw on the chart. And apparently it just wasn't loading some. So like all my Walmart levels, for whatever reason, just weren't loading. They were there, but we just couldn't get them to show up on the screen. So anyway, I've never seen, I've been using TradingView for God knows how long. I've never seen them do that happen. So I'll give them a pass on that being a one-off snafu on their end. All right, let's get our bearings on Constellation Brands. Earnings report coming up in a couple of days. Sorry, let me clean these drawings up a little bit more. Just real quick. Okay. So what are we looking for here? Constellation Brands. So for those who don't know what they're a beverage company. I think I forget which ones they do. Do they do like cores and stuff like that? Let's see. Beer, wine, and spirits. Just not going to say specifically. Imported beer. Yeah, I forget who all they represent. They were involved in some of I think were they the ones that did the like deal with Bob Marley's family for the THC beverages. I don't know if that ever came to fruition or not. That was, man, I'm really dating myself talking about that. That was back in the cannabis ticker boom when everybody was trying to play weed stocks. All right. Sorry. I'm just trying to get a good sense. I'm already liking sort of this range. It's going to be one of these two levels, with this being our stop loss. I am charting in my head while I'm talking through some of this stuff. A Cup of Magic wants to take a look at Adobe. I think we should have time for that. Good to see you, Cup of Magic. Otherwise known as a cup of coffee. Yeah, I like that setup for call entry and stop loss. First target, I wonder if I've got this level a little off or if there's a totally separate level here. But there's something right around this. I'm going to switch this because I'm going to want to go back and take a look at this level a little bit more. 264.40, just so I can really nail it down. But I think for planning purposes, that's adequate. Should give us a little bit better than 1-to-1 on our risk reward. That's key. All right, let's dig in here. 265. Let me also get a sense of, okay, we're not really, there's actually some more price action up in this range, which is helpful. Okay. Yeah, I like this 266.01, so it's kind of a smaller jump to hit PT2. Then I think I like this 268.01. Let me see if this more recent price action changes my mind about that at all. Answer's no. There's potential, I guess, maybe to go higher, but it's thin at best. Like significantly higher, but I don't like that as an actual target. So I think what we're looking for, I probably have this a little bit off. It's been a long time since I've looked at the Constellation Brands chart. At least I think it is. Probably slight adjustment to that daily level right there to 268.27. So that gives us the upside trade plan. Downside, yeah, definitely gives us a good entry here. Could actually be slightly higher, but this candle's really flattened right about there. First price target. Could be 252.56, could be 251.56. 251.56 has the confluence. I know I typically err one level higher if I'm torn between the two, but that is where the key buying pressure is on Neptune right now. So I'm going to go with the indicator that is much smarter than I am as far as calculating things in real time goes, and let it call the shot on that one since we do have a confluence to use there. I think I'm missing a level right around here at 249.13. Let me just check this real quick. It's close to this. Maybe right there, 249.26. Yeah. I think there is a level right about there that we'd want to use for our second price target. Third target, I think in this weekly level, but we caught or bounced just a little bit above it, 247.08. That's about 20 cents off, which isn't all that much. I'm going to go for that weekly level. Scale out on approach. Don't wait for it to hit precisely. If you're within, I'd say, a 50-cent range of that, go ahead and start taking the rest of your contracts off. All right, so let's set up these trade plans, or these long short positions is probably the better way to say that. Showing our plans. And let me check these. Yeah, 1.5 on that downside plan. 1.2 on the upside plan. So decent risk reward on both of those. Kind of line this up a little bit better. All right, that should be easy enough to see. So here are your live stream plans for Constellation Brands. And let's do here and in the watch list for those who aren't following this elite chat yet. I feel like I got to post this everywhere now. All right, so let's talk through what we're seeing here on Constellation Brands and what we're looking for to execute some trades and make some money on this one. We're looking for a break above 261.35 right here. That should give us upside targets at 264.40, 266.01, and 268.27 with a stop loss average down at 258.76. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 255.87. That should give us targets at 251.56, 249.26, and 246.88 with a shared stop loss average down at 258.76. Those are your Constellation Brands live stream plans. Go get them. All right, we've got Amazon up next for my homeboy Chris, the muse of the FOMO live stream, always finds fantastic tickers. It's got a smart head for thinking about things like, oh, yeah, reminder, NFL season's coming up. We should probably looking at DraftKings. Should probably be looking at DraftKings. I don't think those words came out right. It's early still. I'm a night owl. Whoa, what the hell is that? I didn't want that. Some new feature there or something? I don't know what I hit, but all right. Let's tighten these up. Okay. Amazon. Let's see. There's some old trade plan stuff there. Let's clear that off. All right. That's better. Let's see. It looks like we've got, let's just confirm. I don't think I grabbed that at the right spot. Hang on, zoom in on this a little bit more. Looks like it's actually sliding out from what was this downtrend. Yeah, that trend was definitely there. It's just being broken here pre-market, so that's a good sign. As far as Amazon maybe making a bullish move. Does have a little bit of a bear flaggy vibe. There's also a trend down here that I would be watching because of that. Right there. So keep those on watch. Those will also help inform how we want to set up these plans. All right, so where does upside really open up? Like I see some lower entries, but it's almost like they're like potential entry there at 186.54, but I could certainly make a case for 187.33 being a challenge. Same thing with this weekly level at 188.23. But with it sliding out from under that downtrend, I'm debating, what I'm debating with myself on is how aggressive do I want to approach this trade because of it breaking out from under that current downtrend. All right. All right, we can take a shot at this, I think. So what I'm looking at is the potential for this move. Again, I'm a little bit worried about 187.33, but I think with the break of this downtrend, that could get some more buyers interested, enough momentum to at least push up to that weekly resistance. Stop loss is the other big question, though. Can we set that up? In a reasonable spot, because we are being a little bit more aggressive. I would also want to be on the entry. I want to keep this stop tight. I don't want to take a big loss because we were over eager to jump into this trade. Do see a potential level developing here. Whoops. At 185.13 that I think we could use to our advantage. Also, a break below that would put us below this uptrend and probably also below the 333 depending on the timing of it, which would be a lot of key support confluences giving way, at which point I would not want to be holding the bag on the call side for too long. So I think that sets up good risk reward, gets us into the trade, I think, reasonably early without being too overly aggressive on it. Second price target, I think, sitting right around here. Another level appears to be developing, or I just haven't charted it yet. One of those two is true, but I'll come back and confirm this when I have time to do that. Offline takes us up to 189.52. That was 165. Is that all-time high at some point? It's typically what I mark these off with, or when I've got that gold color like that. Yeah, that was our all-time high at one point. So that was in price discovery. I think this level has been kind of refined and moved down a little bit after that one test of it, closer to 191.47, which gives us our third price target for the upside. Downside, I think we've got a level here. Yeah. It's pretty close. Good enough, I think. For a put entry, taking us down, first target right here at this prior resistance at 181.57. Could potentially catch support there, or at this daily level at 179.88. Third target, I think is sitting around this 177.04 level. Just looking for some more validation. Is it a little lower? What's up, CK? Good to see you, brother. Let me mark this off real quick. Curious if it's this level. Yeah, see, that's kind of what I thought that would do. Let me get a better view of the price action there. You know what? It's our third price target. Let's take a shot at it. Being down there at 176.84. Make sure you're moving your stops the whole way through. Don't let the price push back up against you too much. So here are the Amazon trade plans as I see them. And we should have time for one more trade plan after this before I've got to cut loose and go put together the daily SPY plan, the daily money printer. All right, that looks easy enough to see. Yeah, there we go. All right. So here are the Amazon live stream plans. Let's talk about them real quick. And let me post this all over the place in the Discord. And all right. So what are we looking for here on Amazon? We're looking for a break over 186.54 to shoot for targets at 188.23, 189.52, and 191.47 with a stop loss average down at 185.13. To the downside, we're waiting for a break of 183.50 support. That should give us targets at 181.57, 179.88, and 176.84 with a shared stop loss average down level there at 185.13. Risk reward looks good to get into PT1 on both sides of this. So I think we're good to go. All right, last but not least, what was the last ticker? Was it over in the live stream chat? Adobe. That's right. Let's take a look at Adobe. I think we did a plan on Adobe recently. Was it earnings, right around their earnings report? All right, well, let's clean this up. Let's take a look at where Adobe is at now that that earnings volatility has had a chance to wind down. Sorry, I just want to get some. I think we, if I remember correctly, did these Adobe levels on the live stream. So I don't know if I've gone through and charted this all that thoroughly. Yeah, it does look like a bear flag. Let's see. Or pennant or something. Yeah, if there's a trend, it's probably right around there. To the downside. This is also kind of interesting. It's also very interesting, actually. That's a really clean trend there. All right. But yeah, it looks like a bear pennant. Sorry, I'm just getting my bearings on some of these levels because, again, I think the levels I have on here are just higher time frame and ones that we did fairly quickly, and I don't think I did a lot down in this range because Adobe was much higher when we did this plan. Or did the last set of plans and did these drawings. I keep coming back to this little flip of support to resistance. It's shown itself a couple of times before. There's pretty good resistance on it. Yeah, there's a good level here. I think could potentially invalidate this bear flag and see Adobe push for a little bit of a recovery move. And that recovery move, I would expect it to take us to, yeah, right about this 531.43 level. stop loss. Let's get confirmation on this, but yeah, I think it's 5, 12, 28, 29, 30, right in here. All right, over that, it's not the cleanest price action around it. It is a weekly level, though. And it does get us up into some key selling pressure here on NTS on the 4-hour. Gets us near that 200 SMA. Let me take a look at this on the hourly as well, real quick. Well, that 200 SMA is confluence right there at PT1, so I think that's exactly where we want it to be. 333 could be catching up to PT2 here on the hourly by the time we get to it, and we saw some confluence on the 4-hour as well, so I like 540.17 where it is as PT2. Over that, I'm thinking 551.87. Yeah. It could be a level higher. It could be 557.84, but I'm not totally convinced we push that high, especially with how much ground will have been recovered by that point. So that's the upside plan. Downside, I would expect it to be this weekly level, with weeklies being kind of some of our more key levels. I think we can share that stop loss average down with the upside plan. Targets. It's an interesting PM low there at 493.78. Just seeing if there's validation on that being a true support and resistance level. If there is, come on, let's go. Yeah, it's probably sitting right in this neck of the woods. Yeah, I like that. Sorry, it took me a second to nail that down, but Adobe does have kind of weirdish price action. All right, below that, I'm going to use this range right in here. I was already eyeballing this as I was kind of scanning back and forth a minute ago. Down here to 481.92, I believe. Below that, I'm thinking that's 469.03. Yeah. All right, so that sorts it out. Let's finish our plan chart and let's talk through this as we wrap up our first FOMO live stream of October, first of this week, and first of many to come as we head into the end of the year. Let me just check this real quick. Whoa. It's right on the 1-to-1 line, but it is what it is. I think it needs that much. I think it's appropriate to give the trade that much room to work out, depending on how that plays. So definitely start small on this upside, especially given the response to that recent earnings report where the upside is still at this point. I would say bucking the trend. So just keep that in mind. Start small if the upside plan develops. All right. Whoops, copy link. Here are your Adobe live stream plans. All right, so what are we looking for here on Adobe? We're looking for a break over 552.07. That should give us a first price target at 531.43. Next price target 540.17, and then on to PT3 at 551.87 with a stop loss average down here at 512.50. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 505.24. That should give us targets at 493.99, call it 494. 481.92 and 469.03 with a shared stop loss average down with the upside trade plan there at 512.50. Those are your Adobe live stream plans. We got through 3 this morning, right? Amazon, Adobe, and Constellation Brands. So make sure that you're putting these drawings on your charts, setting your alerts, be ready to act when the time comes. I hope you guys are doing well with these plans. And of course, I hope you'll come back and join me again Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to tell your friends. Come check us out on YouTube if they're not in the Xtrades Discord community. It is totally free to join and watch and share with us and chime in. Give me your ticker requests. Totally free to join on the YouTube side of things. And of course, we would love for you to come check us out in Discord. It is definitely where you will grow and develop your skills as a trader. So with that being said, let's call it a morning. And as we always say here on the morning live streams, plan your trades, trade your plans, keep your wins big, keep your losses small, go out there, get some green. I will see you guys in the chats, and I will see you back here Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another Xtrades FOMO live stream. Thank you again for joining me. You guys have a fantastic, guys and gals, have a fantastic day. Talk to y'all soon. Take care.